Boy bands, a musical phenomenon that's led female teens of generations alike to dangerous levels of fanaticism. But first, what is a boy band? Traditionally, it's 4 to 5 boys in their teens, early 20s, discovered through auditions, united by a music producer, and their squeaky clean images carefully crafted by a controlling manager. Sometimes they're not even boys, like the Backstreet Men who are in their 30s and 40s. And boy banders usually don't play an instrument, making the term boy band a bit of a misnomer. But these are pointless details. What is truly a boy band? For pre-pubescent girls and teens, the reason for living. So without further ado, let's count down the most unforgettable, weep-inducing boy bands in pop music history. Beginning with the OG of boy bands, the Jackson 5. You didn't see that one coming, did ya? Formed in 1964, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael made history as one of the first black groups to successfully cross over to the mainstream. These boys became international hits. But eventually, Marlon took Jermaine's place, and then Marlon left, and then Michael left, and there is no Jackson 5 without Michael. So he went on to become the king of pop. And the 4 eldest brothers embarked on a reunion tour upon MJ's death in '09. Next, now you may not think of them as a boy band, but they are, in the truest sense of the words, the Beatles.
Let me hold your hand. Now let me hold your hand.
Formed in Liverpool in 1960, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr became the greatest act ever. Their popularity was coined Beatlemania. But unlike most boy bands, their deep lyrics led them to become the face of the socio-cultural revolutions of their era. Tragically, in December of 1980, John Lennon was shot and killed by an obsessed fan. His ashes were scattered in New York City's Central Park, and George Harrison died of lung cancer back in '01. But Paul and Ringo are still making music. So cheers to the most influential band in music history. Speaking of 1960s boy bands, the Monkees were born out of a TV sitcom called The Monkees, about an imaginary band that wanted to be like the Beatles. But then its members actually became a band.
I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her.
In fact, in 1967, the Boys outsold the Beatles and the Rolling Stones combined. That is epic. Fast forward to the 70s, which gave us the Puerto Rican boy band Menudo, out of which Ricky Martin was discovered. Then came New Edition, formed by genius music producer Maurice Starr.
Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. If I love the girl, who cares who you like?
So New Edition basically started the boy band trend, and they gave us Bobby Brown, equally famous for dating Janet Jackson and then later marrying Whitney Houston. After New Edition broke up, and with racial politics playing such a big role in mainstream music, Maurice decided to create the white version of New Edition. Enter New Kids on the Block.
Step by step. Ooh, baby. Really want you in my world.
With brothers Jordan and Jonathan Knight, Joey McIntyre, Donnie Wahlberg, aka Mark Wahlberg's brother, and Danny Wood, New Kids on the Block became the first commercially successful modern boy band in history. New Kids on the Block ruled the late 80s and early 90s, and they've sold more than 80 million records worldwide, making them one of the world's best-selling groups of all time. Now, boy bands were to the 90s what YouTube is to the 2000s. It was a magical decade for boy bands. So let's talk about Boyz II Men. These guys put the in R&B. Many of you people exist today thanks to these guys and the bump and grind worthy tunes they put out. Their song, End of the Road, was #1 for so long that it broke a record that Elvis Presley had set decades earlier. In fact, between I'll Make Love to You and One Sweet Day with Mariah Carey and all of those emotional ballads that made us weep, Boyz II Men have spent over 50 weeks in the #1 spot, beat only by Elvis Presley, the Beatles, and Mariah Carey. Now look at this face. Do you know who this is? He is the most successful boy band manager in history. Your minds are about to explode as much as his bank account did in the late 90s. Lou Pearlman brought the world LFO, O-Town, NSYNC, and the Backstreet Boys. So the Backstreet Boys exploded onto our radios in the year 1993. AJ, Howie, Nick, Kevin, and Brian have sold over 130 million records worldwide. The Backstreet Boys are the best-selling boy band in history. Now, a couple years later, NSYNC was formed. Justin Timberlake, JC Chasez, Chris Kirkpatrick, Joey Fatone, and Lance Bass would give the Backstreet Boys some serious competition.
Baby, bye, bye, bye.
The group's second album, No Strings Attached, sold over 1 million copies in one day. And they were the kings of collabs. They sang with everyone: Elton John, Left Eye, Aerosmith, Mary J. Blige, Britney Spears, Nelly, Michael Jackson, Phil Collins, Stevie Wonder, Celine Dion, and Gloria Estefan. Now, despite selling over 50 million albums, in 2002, the band disbanded, and some of us have not left our rooms since. 1995 saw not just the birth of NSYNC, but also LFO, short for Light Funky Ones, but no one ever remembers that part. They sold over 5 million records, and then at the end of the boy band fad came O-Town. They were actually formed from the first season of the reality series Making the Band. There was also the British boy band Five, and then the Irish boy band Westlife, and we cannot forget the Hanson brothers with that bop song that I am still trying to get out of my head. We also had 98 Degrees, consisting of brothers Nick and Drew Lachey, Justin Jeffrey, and Jeff Timmons. They actually formed independently and then were later picked up by a record label. They sold over 10 million records. Then Nick ended up marrying Jessica Simpson, and they had a really funny reality TV show all about her, well, dumb comments.
You try these?
I don't eat buffalo.
Oh, chicken.
But why are they called buffalo wings?
Baby, come on, you know it.
I don't know this.
They divorced 3 years later, and Drew eventually won Dancing with the Stars. But too much of something great is repulsive, and the world could only take so many boy bands before they overdosed. Unless you were a Disney kid. In 2005, the Jonas Brothers, consisting of Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas, exploded onto the scene thanks to the Disney Channel.
Come on, shake it up, 5, 4, 3. Baby, put your pom-poms down for me.
They starred in the Disney original flicks Camp Rock and Camp Rock 2: The Final Jam. They took breaks and then reunited until October of 2013, when the Jonas Brothers broke up for good despite selling 17 million albums worldwide. But in the 2010s, boy bands began to resurge. Big Time Rush was created in 2009 for Nickelodeon's TV show Big Time Rush. The group consisted of Kendall Schmidt, James Maslow, Carlos Penavega, and Logan Henderson. And they had a very nice run until they too separated in July of 2013 after 3 successful studio albums. I'll also give a shout out to The Wanted, who after some commercial success landed a reality TV show on E! Called The Wanted Life. And despite being managed by Scooter Braun, they eventually announced their hiatus earlier this year. Which brings us to the biggest band of our time, One Direction. This English-Irish concoction comprised of Niall Horan, Zayn Malik, Liam Payne, Harry Styles, and Louis Tomlinson was formed through the UK version of The X Factor. Now, what can I say about them that you don't already know? What, that their first 3 albums, Up All Night, Take Me Home, and Midnight Memories, broke records, topped charts in most major markets, and generated hit singles including What Makes You Beautiful, Live While We're Young, and Story of My Life? Or that Harry's hair defies gravity? No. I won't say all that because you already know it. Now, you may be biased because you might not have been alive during some of these other boy band heydays, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. When you are old and your grandkids are driving you crazy, which of all of these bands will the world still be talking about? Who is the greatest boy band in history? Mark your answer below or tweet me at Miriam Isa at Clevver Music. You know how to tweet. And then come back to this very same video in 50 years, find your answer, and see if you still agree. Do not forget to come back in 50 years, people. Write that down somewhere. And now, if you are left even hungrier for boy band madness, check out the 11 best One Direction music videos of all time. I'm Miriam Isa, and if you're still watching this video, then I think the moment has arrived for you to hit that subscribe button. I'm serious. Thanks for watching, you guys, and see you next time.